We'd all known that President Trump was not a fan of the Biden-Harris administration's CHIPS Act, even though it was bipartisan in nature. But it looks as though they're looking at a different way to orchestrate it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So just to back up a step, the CHIPS Act, of course, was passed with bipartisan support. The whole idea is getting these chips companies to invest more in the United States. It's $52 billion in grants and then tax credits, which are very, very important here, too. So the Biden administration scrambled in their last days to try to finalize the agreements with a bunch of the most important chip companies in the world, including TSMC and Samsung and Intel and Micron. They finalized the terms of these accords, but they didn't disperse all the money. The whole idea was that these companies would hit benchmarks and then the money would go out. So what Lutnick has decided to do is he's decided to use those disbursements as leverage with these companies to try to get them to commit even more money to the United States. So the CHIPS awards are not going to go up in terms of value, but before he actually writes those checks, he wants companies to come forward and to pledge more money. The example for this is TSMC. TSMC originally was going to invest about $65 billion in chip capacity in the United States. It came forward and they said they're going to put in another $100 billion. The Trump administration loves to be able to have those kinds of announcements, especially TSMC is the most important chip maker in the world right now. So for them to say we'll put another $100 billion in the market is very important.
The administration would say that was the effect of tariffs. TSMC has said they just like the American market and want to invest there. But what's also interesting is the nuance on the tax credit, Peter, because in many ways that's more important than the grants.
Right. For many of these companies, including TSMC and probably Samsung and Intel also, the tax credit is very, very important. It could be a lot more money. And so there are discussions about maybe increasing that tax credit. It has been 25%. It could be even more in the future. And that's important for companies that actually have the money right now. If you can put in $100 billion, it's easy to do the math on that. That's $25 billion in tax credits for you. That can save you a lot of money down the line. And you're right, TSMC sees a lot of opportunities in the United States market to be able to make investments, build some of those cutting-edge chips here, and then sell them to domestic customers. You also have companies like Samsung and Intel that could do things like this, are embarking on these kinds of projects. But Lutnick is exerting a lot of leverage right now in these companies to try to get bigger numbers, more eye-popping numbers into the headlines so that they can take credit for bringing some of this production back to the United States.
At a time when, with a lot of uncertainty, particularly with tariffs hanging over the semiconductor industry, it must be a difficult time to commit to more spending from these CEOs.
Right. You're just talking about the tariff uncertainty out there. I guess we'll find out some things tomorrow, but a lot of this we just don't know at this point. And you're right. Lutnick and the Trump administration have pointed to tariffs as part of the reason that some of these companies are investing more in the United States. In the tech sector, the chip sector in particular, it's unclear. We don't really know what the tariffs are going to look like. There's been talk about putting tariffs on the chips themselves, maybe the products, the end products that chips go into. It's not clear exactly how that's going to play out. So I think they need more information. And of course, the timeframes are totally different. They're changing these policies almost by the week, as we've seen. And when you invest in a chip company, you have to plan for decades at a time. So the timeframes really don't match up here. They're going to have to resolve some of those conflicts going down the line.